Some of you might recognize this face. Some of you might not, but you might recognize this movie poster. This movie from 1993 called Fire in the Sky is based on the incident of this man, Travis Walton, that happened on November 5th, 1975. And if you listen to the audio podcast, you know that I have been mentioning for a couple of years that I wanted to actually sit down and record the entire Travis Walton incident story as a podcast, but I just haven't really gotten around to it. And then at the beginning of 2025, I had it planned out to do in January or February, and then I'm realized, it's the 50th anniversary in November. I might as well just wait till the end of the year, and then we can do sort of an anniversary telling of the incident. And I wondered how I wanted to do it, whether I just wanted to sit down in front of the microphone and record the story in my words, or if I wanted to get some audio and sort of piece them together along with some of my commentary. And I think that's what I'm going to do. And if you're listening to the audio portion of this podcast, you don't necessarily need to see the video. The audio from the video is the important thing. So what this will be a split episode between my audio podcast, To Boldly Pod, and the video podcast, Spock Rock After Dark, a crossover episode, if you will. And it's all about the incidences that occurred starting on November 5th, 1975, to Travis Walton.
Picture this. November 5th, 1975, in the remote forests of Arizona. A group of loggers were heading home after a long day to work when something extraordinary happened. Something that would become one of the most famous alien abduction cases in history. Travis Walton, a 22-year-old logger, and his crew spotted a bright disc-shaped object hovering above the trees. Curiosity got the better of Travis. He jumped out of the truck and approached the mysterious light. What happened next would change his life forever. A beam of blue-green light suddenly struck Travis, lifting him into the air. His terrified co-workers fled the scene. When they returned with the police hours later, Travis was nowhere to be found. For 5 days, Travis Walton vanished without a trace. Search parties combed the forest. His disappearance made national headlines. Some suspected foul play, while others believed his incredible story. When Travis finally reappeared, he told a shocking tale of being taken aboard an alien spacecraft.
Now that part is kind of the cart before the horse, and I realize they're just doing a quick minute-and-a-half version of the story, so they have to kind of make it quick. He didn't really talk about being on board the ship after he came back. It wasn't until a while after that his memories started to come back, and he underwent some hypnosis to where he got a lot of the memories back. He had fleeting images of being on board the ship initially, but it wasn't until a while later. But I understand they have to get this in a minute and a half, so we'll let it slide.
Encountering strange beings and undergoing mysterious procedures. To this day, his story remains one of the most well-documented and controversial alien abduction cases ever recorded. His co-workers all passed lie detector tests, and Travis himself has never wavered from his account of what happened that night in the Arizona forest.
They are 100% accurate on that. All 7 loggers have not changed their story, save for one incident a few years ago that we're going to talk about at the conclusion of this podcast. But for the most part, They have stuck by their story this entire 50 years. And like they stated in that little piece there, the police did sort of suspect that the other six men knew something that they weren't sharing. So when they did go to the police after the incident happened and they couldn't find him, the police thought maybe he had died or they got in a fight or one of them killed him and the rest of them were trying to cover it up. So what they did is gave him a lie detector test. And I'm getting a little ahead of myself. But they gave him a lie detector test and they all passed. One was inconclusive, but the other five passed without issue. So much so that the guy that was giving the lie detector test, the polygraph, said he was impressed that all five of the six had really no deviation whatsoever. And then the sixth guy was sort of inconclusive because he was convinced, since he had been in trouble with the law, Alan Dallas was his name, that they were all just going to pin it on him and blame him for killing Travis. So, as you can guess, his lie detector was really all over the place. But to go back a little bit, after they reported it, they couldn't go search for him that night because it was too dark and they wouldn't be able to see anything. So the police went up there with the loggers the next morning to the place where this incident happened, and there was no UFO and there was no Travis's body. And the police admitted they expected to get up there and find his body, to which they didn't. So they put together a search party of hundreds of men and combed the forest. I thought I was in Spaceballs. They combed the forest looking for Travis or Travis's body, and there was no clue of him being there, of him being moved, of him being buried, any sign of Travis Walton whatsoever. It wasn't until 5 days later that he reappeared miles away in the middle of the road. Kind of, this is the point where the video sort of sways from what actually happened. When he came to, he was in the middle of the road and he saw a big bright light above him. At this point, all he could remember was seeing the UFO, getting blasted, and then coming to in the middle of the road. He thought it was just a few minutes, but it was 5 days that had actually passed, and he just appeared out of nowhere. Nobody could find him, had seen from him, heard anything from him for those 5 days. So much so that the police assumed that he was dead, and they were trying to figure out who and how they were going to charge some of these loggers for his murder, even though they passed the polygraph test. But when he showed back up, everything kind of blew up. So we had the case of them seeing the UFO, the other loggers saying that they saw this light hit Travis and knock him out, which they admitted they all thought he was dead after that light hit him. They got scared and ran away, and then he was gone. And then he reappears 5 days later. He was dehydrated and had lost a bunch of weight in those 5 days, but other than that, he wasn't really physically injured. So that was the mystery. The police didn't know what to do. So they kind of just went along with the polygraph that you know, none of them were lying. So maybe what they were saying was the truth. And that's sort of where the story grew big.
Was 7 of us. We were working in the woods in near Heber, Arizona, and we had quit for the day, and we were driving down this logging road, and it was just starting to get dark. It wasn't quite dark; it was not dusk, and one of the guys in the back says, "What's that?" You know, and there was a light coming through the trees off to the right, up ahead. And when we got around this thicket of trees where we could see what it was, there was this, this object hovering about 100 feet off the road. And, we stopped the truck, and we sat there watching it. And I got out, and I walked up closer to it, to get a close look. What happened? Well, I jumped down behind this log, and as I raised up to go, I just felt a numbing shock, and I blacked out. And my friends in the truck said they saw a beam come out of the craft and strike me in the head and the chest and knock me back through the air about 10 feet there. And they panicked and ran,
And like I said, when he came back 5 days later, he thought it was just a couple hours. And it wasn't until he got a little bit of his faculties back that it was his brother, actually, that was talking to him. And Travis said, how long have I been passed out? Because he thought he just passed out from getting hit by the beam of light. And his brother said, it's been 5 days, Travis. And Travis was like, no, it hasn't. There's no way it's been 5 days. And his brother said, feel your face. And he did. And he had 5 days worth of beard growth on his face for somebody that had allegedly only been knocked out for a couple hours. That's a pretty thick growing, fast growing beard. But after he came back is when the media really blew up about the whole UFO incident. And a lot of the loggers at this point sort of walked away from the whole thing because they didn't want all of this attention. Because some of the area was still accusing them of setting this whole thing up. And it didn't help that a bunch of professional skeptics came to town and tried to make a whole bunch of excuses about how they were behind on their logging contract and they created this entire story about the UFO just to get out of the logging contract, even though they had passed the lie detector test and it stated that they were telling the truth. And then when Travis got back, he too took a lie detector test and passed to the best of his knowledge of everything, because he still didn't have a bunch of memories about what happened after he got hit by the beam of light. It wasn't until a few weeks later where he started to get some memories back about what happened, where he started to have visions about aliens and being on board a ship and all of that. So that's where the story takes another kind of strange turn.